This subject of Cavendish Boulevard, the extension, which I said has been going on literally for, I would say, close to 30, 40, 50 years, maybe, who knows. It doesn't seem to be making any headway, despite what the city has said, despite what Valerie Plante has promised about it getting done. There has been no news from the city. And then, of course, yesterday, turns out there was a meeting in Côte-Saint-Luc. People there want to know what's going on. With some information that we were not aware of, I was not aware of, that was going to be brought up last night. So I thought we'd try to find out a bit more about this. Dida Berku, is a Côte-Saint-Luc city councillor, was at the meeting. And Dida, I understand, this is your file in a sense, trying to tell us what's going on. So what did you discuss last night, and what new information is there here, good or bad?
Hi, Aaron. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. You can hear me well?
I can. Did you not hear me just a second ago?
I did.
Okay.
Sorry. No, because they told me not to use the speaker. Anyway, so I want to touch on 3 points. I want to touch on the issue as an election issue, on the federal funding that Carney has promised for housing, and on the crazy, fantastical options that are being put on the table. So what should we address?
Well, let's address Cavendish first of all, because I thought that's what this was all about. What's the issue on Cavendish? What's happening? What have you found out? What is the city doing or not doing?
Well, as you know, up until 2022, from 2017 to 2022, Cavendish was definitely attached to the Hippodrome. They got the Hippodrome for $1, and Cavendish was a condition, and they're supposed to put through Cavendish. And in 2022, the city of Montreal went to the Bureau d'Audience Publique, and they deposited their proposal to push through Cavendish, and everything was fine. And the 3 mayors, TMR, Saint Laurent, and Côte-Saint-Luc, were all in favor, and we were all good. In 2023, Plante pulled the plug and basically told the council at the end of 2023, no, Cavendish is not the priority. Now it's Jean Talon is the priority. And if we want to service the Hippodrome, we've got to do it through Jean Talon. So now they hired, in 2023-24, they hired engineers, $11 million contracts, which we denounced, to come up with new traffic, new mobility solutions, with Jean Talon as the focus in order to serve the Hippodrome. And thankfully, the fire department said, okay, but if you're going to put in 20,000 people, you're going to need 3 safe exits and entry points. So they have Jean Talon, they have Devonshire, which goes through the industrial park, and they need a third, which has to be separate and distinct from the other 2, so there's no cross-contamination in case of an emergency. So they were exploring going west into Côte-Saint-Luc through Mackle with a bridge, or through Kildare, or through some other options, but basically over the yards. Now, as soon as you touch the yards, CP is definitely not interested in overpasses. We've been through this for the past 20 years. And an underpass between the Hippodrome and Mackle is like the Louis Hippolyte Lafontaine Tunnel, so that's not an option. And so they're presenting us with these crazy, absolutely non-starter options, clearly with a view to say, oh, well, then we can't do those options, so we're going to go back to
hold on a
something
second.
else.
Why is an overpass or an underpass, off the table? We have plenty of those around town. Why? There's one on Jean Talon now.
I know. We want an underpass, but we want a reasonable underpass like the one you have on Cavendish, like the one you have on Victoria, like the one you have at Rockland. That's a reasonable underpass. An underpass to go from Hippodrome all the way to Mackle, you're talking 3-4 times the length. Okay, so that's not possible. And if it's a bridge, it's got to go as high as the containers can go, which is maybe 3, 4, 5 stories high. So what kind of bridge is that going to be? These are fantastical options that are just not realistic.
So, if I'm gathering from what you're saying, this is, the city, for whatever reason it's doing this, we can speculate as to why they decided to change their mind on this. Nothing is happening at Hippodrome with the exception of a couple of modular homes that have been dropped there. I know the city has a plan, or at least they had one a couple of years ago, but nothing has happened there. Do you think this is being taken out on Côte-Saint-Luc and residents there for some reason?
No, it's not being taken out. They, if you saw Plante's recent Instagram video like Alice in Wonderland or Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz with Gracia and Beaudry traipsing around the Hippodrome. There's going to be roads. There's going to be, buildings. There's going to be life. Just promising the moon, but there's no mobility plan and there's no money. So they ran to the federal government through the Gallup Committee with all their wise men and women sitting on the Gallup Committee, and they convinced Carney to give them, as you heard last week, $557 million over the next few years, but $83 million next year for two projects, Bridge Bonaventure and Hippodrome. Why? Because they need to put in the water infrastructure. There's no water, there's no infrastructure there. So they can't do anything without federal money. And we foresaw this last year, and that's why we formed an alliance, a business alliance, which was an amazing alliance, which Rick Lechner helped us, organize, of course. And we formed a political alliance, Anna Gainey from Westmount, Lambropoulos from Saint Laurent, Anthony Housefather from Mount Royal, and all the MNAs and all the elected officials, the three wise mayors, D'Souza, Maloof, and Brownstein. And they all signed letters to the Minister of Housing saying no money for Hippodrome without Cavendish. And what does Carney do? Turns around and gives them all this money and no strings attached. So now they're going to invest all our taxpayers' money into a Hippodrome project without a proper mobility plan. They do not have a proper mobility plan.
I thought there was money set aside last year. I remember talking about this at the time, and the city had gotten money for exactly this, to consider that extension. Was that money diverted? Where did it go?
Which money are you talking about? The $100 million that they put aside for Cavendish and that they diverted towards Jean Talon?
Oh, that's where it went.
Okay. Well, they haven't spent it, but since 2017, every year they put aside $10 million, $15 million, $20 million, and it added up, and it added up to quite a bit of money. And then suddenly in 2023-24, they said, you know what? We're not really going to do Cavendish anymore. We're more focused on Namur Hippodrome, Jean Talon, and maybe Cavendish as an afterthought because we need to show that we're still thinking about Cavendish. And so now the focus is on Jean Talon, Devonshire, and they have to find another route out of the Hippodrome, and they're thinking of drawing it like on a napkin, like they're drawing it over 8 tracks, a Toyota parking lot, wetlands, and presenting it to us. And I told them since April, I said, that's like a fantasy.
Okay.
Really? Is he going to approve that? We'll see.
All right. So we stand basically where we were before. There's no news, or certainly no good news in terms of what's going to happen. And I wonder too, by the way, if this Projet Montréal was to lose this municipal election and another party got in power, is the Hippodrome off the books?
No. The Hippodrome is always going to be on the books. It's the Cavendish that has to be brought back into it.
But if the money was given to this government municipally to deal with the Hippodrome, if the next party doesn't want to go ahead and do what they want to do, has a different idea, then what?
Well, you see, the whole notion of Cavendish, it's a north-south access. So in their plan, there is an access from Hippodrome to Saint Laurent. That's going to happen through
the other way,
Cavendish. Yeah. Okay, but it's the north-south. It's the Cavendish and Saint Laurent to the Cavendish and Côte-Saint-Luc, and all the way down to Lachine and LaSalle, etc. That part of it is still up in the air. But my point is this: if I were running for mayor of Côte-Neiges-NDG, or even if I were running for mayor of Montreal, what would I do? I would stand at the corner of Jean Talon de Carry, morning, noon, and night, and I would say, I'm going to fix this because this is intolerable. It has to be fixed. Okay. And I don't hear anybody saying that.
Dida, I'm out of time. I thank you. I appreciate it. I wish there was some good news to report here, but maybe someone on the opposition will decide to do just what you said because it is a mess. I know that corner well. Dida Berku, Côte-Saint-Luc City Councillor. Thank you, Dida.